Good morning on this Sunday, June 19th, and welcome to the Georgia Gang. A huge announcement for the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia as FIFA announces Atlanta will host matches in the 2026 World Cup. Also, former U.S. Attorney B.J. Pak testifies before the Congressional Committee investigating January 6th. And Republican U.S. Senate candidate Herschel Walker acknowledges he has a total of 4 kids, but only one he really talks about publicly. Melita, Phil, and Theron are all here in person. Theron is joining us from out of the country. The debate and discussion begin right now.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
We begin with good news, exciting news, especially for this soccer mom. Atlanta will be host to the 2026 World Cup.
We are now confirmed as an official host city and can't be more excited. The world's biggest sporting event is coming to Atlanta in the state of Georgia.
So FIFA has found out something that we've already known for a little while here in Atlanta, that Atlanta is a soccer town.
Georgia leaders were all smiles Thursday after the announcement from FIFA that Atlanta made the list of cities to host the World Cup in 2026. Officials say the schedule will be set a year from now, so no word on how many matches will be played here or what level. But Georgia leaders say the soccer matches will be a huge economic boost.
Without a doubt, the world's biggest sporting event, generating estimated at $400 million of economic impact to the city. But beyond the dollar amount, it's the legacy that it can leave behind, and it's also the opportunities for this entire state to be able to host this event.
When it's all said and done, the world will be watching as we meet this moment.
15 other North American cities will host matches. This is a big win for the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia. Melita, we'll start with you first. You can tell I'm excited.
I can tell that you're excited, and I think it's also a symbol of how Georgia is growing in diversity. And I think it's neat that 4.6 million in global TV media exposure for each match that will be played here, and the economic development of $415 million. That's a great boost for the city and the state.
And Phil, there's still a lot of work to do. I mean, this is 4 years out, and I know that we're still going for the World Congress Center wants to be kind of the media center for the world.
Right, and of course we'll be watching in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and of course there's a lot of people that the work went into this. The Sports Council, of course, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the City of Atlanta, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a big win for the state. It is the largest sporting event on the planet. Isn't that incredible?
Yes, it is. Martha.
Well, I tell you, my oldest girlfriend, Karen Kozer, and I used to go to soccer games in high school at Columbia High School, where we were like 5 people watching soccer. So I have been following soccer for a very long time, and this is a very big time for that.
It really is. There was a lot of work behind the scenes that went into this, and probably a lot of work that we couldn't hear about, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you got to give credit to the people involved. They kept this very, very close to the vest. I mean, we didn't know until the day of that this was actually going to be confirmed. But just to echo what Mayor Dickens said, is that Atlanta is a soccer town. And it also shows, Lori, that we're an international city. But Atlanta needed this. We needed the governor, the Metro Chamber, the Sports Council, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, all those leaders who came together, all the staff, Pat Wilson over the Georgia Department of Economic Development, to make this great day happen.
Well, it's funny because I had texts from people saying, how do we get tickets? I'm like, well, we have 4 years. But I have a daughter who plays at GSA. We have Atlanta United season tickets. So it really is exciting for this whole region.
So you're expecting to get top tickets. Okay, I get that now.
You heard it here first, right? All right, well, let's switch gears a little bit. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms is joining the White House as a senior advisor to President Biden focused on public engagement. Theron, I want to go back to you. Can you explain more about this role? The Office of Public Engagement serves kind of as a bridge between the Biden-Harris administration and the public. So this is really a high-profile job.
This is a very high-profile job, and whether you're a Democrat or Republican, if you're asked to work in a presidential administration, that is a huge, huge accomplishment. And Lori, I believe it's well-deserved for Keisha Lance Bottoms, who we remember was an early endorser of President Biden when he was running to be president. But the one thing about his statement is that he praised the former mayor on her management during the tough times during the early parts of the pandemic. He talked about her being a woman of integrity and fiscal responsible. And so this role as senior advisor and director of the Office of Public Engagement, she's going to be the face and the voice for the president, making sure that elected officials, community leaders, stakeholders, all are engaged in this presidency and making sure that they can get the president's message out. And so this is something that she's planned to do up until the midterm elections, and then we'll just basically wish her well, and I think she'll do a great job in this position.
All right, Theron, I don't know if you can hear Phil. He, of course, is chuckling over here. And, you know, on social media, Republicans were quick to criticize this move. They say, you know, the way she managed the city does not qualify her for the job, Phil.
Well, a lot of Democrats say that, too. We often heard the complaint from the Democrats on her own city council when she was mayor that, hey, we can never get a hold of her. She does not publicly engage with us. And so this is like someone who is joining the voyage of the doomed Titanic before it hits the iceberg. I mean, the Biden administration, come on, they're having so many problems, and I don't know if even the best consultant in the world can handle this.
Melita was giving you the eye.
Well, I think it's wonderful for Georgia and Atlanta for Keisha Lance Bottoms to have a direct line to both the president and the vice president and to be considered a public face of the administration. Black voters and black women are the most loyal voting bloc of the Democratic Party, and putting her in this high positive national profile is important for voter turnout in the fall.
Martha.
Well, Keisha Lance Bottoms is fine. I'm glad she got this job. She needed a job because she was not able to run for her old one. But look, this is something that's a little too late, because as Theron pointed out, she was one of the first people to endorse Joe Biden. You would think she would have had something before now, but we'll see how it turns out.
All right, we're going to leave it there, folks. Coming up, former U.S. Attorney B.J. Pak testified this week before the committee investigating January 6th. We'll discuss after the break.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
Former U.S. Attorney and sometimes Georgia Gang panelist B.J. Pak testified before the committee investigating the events of January 6th. Pak was appointed by President Trump, then resigned abruptly just days before the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Martha, a lot of his testimony really focused on those now infamous ballot suitcases in Fulton County. Rudy Giuliani claimed that they were filled with fake ballots. Pak testified that those allegations were false.
Look, I think B.J. Pak is an extremely credible person that is honorable and has integrity. I was happy to hear his testimony. I was happy to hear it in his voice. We've heard a lot about what he knew and when he knew it, but we hadn't heard it directly from him. So I was happy to hear it, and I paid close attention.
Melita, the testimony that we're hearing has a very common theme throughout, and that there was no proof that this election was stolen.
Absolutely, and I think that's what we've expected, and I couldn't agree with Martha more that B.J. Pak is a very credible witness, and it was good to hear these things from his voice. You know, I think that first night of the hearing was kind of like the first night you get to a vacation rental and you pull out the puzzle, and it did all the edge pieces. And every day of hearings fills in more and more of the puzzle. And I think B.J. Pak's testimony and some of the testimony we heard on Thursday are giving us more of a complete picture of what these hearings are planning to show us in the entirety.
Well, another piece of the puzzle will be Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. He's expected to testify, and no doubt that call between him and President Trump will be front and center, Phil.
Well, that's right. And B.J. Pak's my friend. I like him. I don't think he had all the information on some of the mismanagement and fraud that occurred just in Fulton County after he had his resignation from in January as U.S. Attorney. But I'll point out something I pointed out last week. This is a sham hearing. I'm in favor of a hearing to figure out what happened on January 6th. I'd like to know why the Capitol Police couldn't handle this, for example. But you can't cross-examine witnesses. You won't be able to cross-examine Raffensperger. There's two sides to every story. This is the first time we've ever had a hearing, so-called hearing, where you can't have due process. And I think that's wrong, and I don't think the American people are going to pay much attention to this propaganda show by Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats.
Oh, I think they're paying attention, and I think the viewership has been huge, and I think we're seeing more and more witnesses come forward to fill out that puzzle.
All anti-Trump witnesses, nothing from the other side. Let's talk about inflation. Let's talk about rising
you're
grocery
pivoting
prices.
from the
you're interrupting.
Capitol
You're
riot.
interrupting me because those are going to be the issues. January 6th is going to fade after this.
I got to get to Theron. Theron,
You know,
Phil
I
says
think
this is a sham hearing.
Well, first of all, Melita, I love the puzzle analogy. I may steal that one from you. But I think the thing that really is interesting to me is that I didn't hear Phil Kent complaining when Hillary Clinton had to go before a very similar committee for 11 hours. He didn't talk about due process. He didn't talk about her being unable to be cross-examined and others. But I think that the key word and the key phrase that BJ Pak used, Lori, to me that really sealed the deal is that he investigated all of these false claims by the former president's attorney. He said all of them, not just one, not just two, but all of them were without merit.
All right. Martha, you wanted to weigh in.
Well, the first hearing, I think, kind of could have been set up better because I think people were expecting a lot more in the first hearing and they weren't clear about how many hearings there were going to be. They mentioned it once at the beginning and they did have big viewership at that first hearing, but since then, of course, it's been much lower. But look, we need to do it, but I've always been a fan of using the actual record of the cases that are being tried because those are statements that rise to evidentiary level so that you know that they're true. But look, this is something we're going to have to go through. But again, like Phil, I think that this is a hearing that needs to be had. But the bigger issues for November are going to be inflation and those kinds of things.
Okay, let's move on. This week, Democrat Stacey Abrams announced she vows to raise teacher salaries by at least $11,000 if elected governor and says no tax hike would be needed. Theron, Abrams says she'll rely on the state budget for the more than $400 million cost.
Well, I was very happy to hear that Stacey Abrams is focusing on teachers. I mean, we require so much from our teachers. I mean, we require them to educate the students. A lot of times they're taking care of the students. And nowadays, you look at what's happening across the country, they've been called upon to actually protect the students with all the gun violence and the mass shootings that we've seen. And so this is something that I think Stacey Abrams is very passionate about. This will be a $11,000 increase for the average salary for a teacher in K through 12. And so it will also have her in place to really debate the governor, who has also honored his commitment to teachers with the pay raises. And that was a campaign promise he made back in 2018.
Yeah, so Martha, Governor Kemp did make a good on a campaign promise of a $5,000 teacher pay raise. And his campaign said that Stacey Abrams is underestimating how much this is truly going to cost.
Well, and that may be true, but also she dissed the idea in 2018 as being a campaign ploy. And it reminds me of the musical song, Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better, because really what she's saying is you did this pay raise, so I'm going to one up it. But I do think it's the right thing to do. I'm on the State Board of Education, and we're talking about things like merit increases and that should go beyond 20 years and lots of other ways to do teacher retention. Yesterday at our board meeting, we dropped an analysis of what we've done about how to retain teachers, and it's available on the website. It's a big problem. So I think it's an important issue, but I think the truth is Stacey Abrams saw the success of the $5,000 pay raise, and she's doubling down on it. It's a gamble for her.
Well, Melita, I think we all agree teachers need to be paid more, but is a proposal this big that would hike the minimum starting salary of a teacher to $50,000, is this feasible? Because what if there's a recession? Will the money be there?
Well, currently we're paying teachers just over $39,000. Mississippi manages to pay their teachers $41,600. Florida has a starting pay for teachers of $47,500. If they can do it, we should be able to do it as well. And I would never doubt Stacey Abrams' estimates on budgets because she is known to be a numbers cruncher and a budget policy wonk. She's something of a nerd about that, so I'm not going to question her figures.
Phil, it is a smart campaign strategy because we know how important teachers are in terms of votes in Georgia.
It is, but I think that you've got, to your point a minute ago, you've got to look at the budget. She may be a numbers cruncher. I'm worried if she was ever governor, what's she going to cut? Law enforcement, some other things. So I think that everybody would be in favor of a reasonable pay increase, but I'm with Martha here. I mean, it's just you're trying to one-up Governor Governor Kemp, and it's pretty obvious if you're paying attention.
All right, one more issue I want to talk about is the 10th Congressional, where there was huge news. Mike Collins received the endorsement of Governor Brian Kemp. He weighed into this Republican runoff.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a poke the bear because Brian Kemp has really said nothing negative about former President Trump. He has stayed above the fray, but this is a direct contest between Mike Collins and the Trump-endorsed Vernon Jones. And Brian Kemp was the biggest vote getter on election night in the 10th Congressional District, and he lives in the 10th Congressional District.
Theron, were you surprised that Governor Kemp weighed in on this one?
Well, yes and no. Yes, to the point where I thought he would maybe stay out of a Republican primary to just basically be able to work with whoever wins. But no, to Martha's point, I mean, look, he won his election fair and square, so now he feels emboldened, he feels empowered, and I think that, you know, clearly he has a former working relationship with Matt Collins, and he's going to put his endorsement and his popularity to the test in this upcoming election. All
right, we'll leave it there. Coming up, Herschel Walker surprises Georgians by acknowledging he has 3 more kids other than the son he publicly talks about. What this revelation means for his Senate campaign next.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
The AJC reports this week that Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker has 3 more kids that he doesn't talk about publicly. Melita, Walker's campaign says that he has supported these kids and will continue to do so. He just doesn't want to drag them into politics. Is this a big issue?
I believe it's a big issue because of the hypocrisy embedded in the fact that he has talked about and actually even shamed black families where the fathers are missing. And so everybody knows that parenting requires a great deal more than a child support check and a gift at Christmas and a birthday. And so this is an example of Walker saying, do as I say, not as I behave in my own life.
Martha, that's the Democratic take.
Yeah, look, I think we're at a difficult time where we've had 2 presidents now that have been kind of fast and loose with the truth, both Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Joe Biden had to leave a race because he plagiarized. He said he got an appointment to a military academy. He said he was first in his law class. So we've got this different world that we're living in. But I got to tell you, I listened to a lot of talk radio last night, a lot of these call-in shows. Doesn't matter much to the voters. They think he's done what he can do, and I think he's handled it well. Is it optimum? No, it's not. But we don't know the situations of these women and whether they wanted their children to be involved. We don't know anything like that. And also, he did declare these children according to a source in a White House application in 2018 that was not public, but got leaked probably.
Theron, let's talk about kind of this bigger picture. I mean, we knew that this would be a brutal campaign against Walker. Critics say he falsely claimed to work in law enforcement, graduated from college when he did not, and embellished his business record, just to name a few. Will all of this matter, to Martha's point, heading into November?
And Lori, how could you forget the snake oil that is going to be a cure for COVID, right? We can't forget that he literally was talking about how he had the cure for COVID, and basically it was going to be in snake oil, and that you could just walk in and out a door and it would cure you of COVID. But the thing, you got to go back to what Melita said. It's the hypocrisy. Look, if Herschel Walker had not been on video and had tripled down on his criticism of black families, particularly black fathers, not being there for their kids, then this wouldn't be as big of a story. But the fact of the matter is, I talked about this before, Lori, the more you learn about Herschel Walker, the more you're going to be concerned about his candidacy. And the unfortunate thing is that during the primary, some of his opponents probably would have been able to bring some of this stuff up. I'm sure it was in the research, but no one wanted to hear it in the Republican primary because they love the football star Herschel Walker. And so it's the hypocrisy, Lori, is the reason why we're talking about it. You can't be out here criticizing black fathers and black families if you're not taking care of your kids at home. Now, to Martha's point, he may be doing something, but he needs to tell us what that is, because he is a candidate for the United States Senate.
Phil.
Well, I get a kick out of the fact that you Democrats here on the panel aren't talking about any policy issues. You're jabbing him personally. You know, let's talk about hypocrisy. There's no perfect human being on this planet, but if you're running for office, you ought to be in favor of some really good things, like two-parent family might be the best, and look out for kids, et cetera, et cetera. So, you would want him to say that. I think he's paying his child support. That's what he says. And he loves his kids. That's what he says. Unlike Raphael Warnock, Warnock, maybe, who's now alleged to have not been paying proper child support by his ex-wife. There's a visitation problem by Raphael Warnock. I don't hear the Democrats' colleagues here on my panel saying anything about that. I think policy issues are going to really weigh. The polling shows they're both neck and neck, and with Warnock just repeating all of the Biden talking points, that's not going to help him coming into November.
Theron, did you want to respond? Yes.
Let me jump in here. So I knew that was coming, right? And the number one, Phil, I have been trying to talk about policy issues with Herschel Walker, but we can't have a policy discussion because the guy can't articulate his policy positions. But let me push back on this thing about Warnock. And you've been saying that for a few weeks now, Phil. And let me tell you this personally, as a black father. So that's one thing that I can bring to the table that you can't. I see Reverend Raphael Warnock with his kids on the weekends. Yes, he is going through a private matter with his ex-wife in custody, but the difference is that he is actually an active parent. He's parenting his two kids. He's there. He's out in public. He's there with them. And we have not seen that from Herschel. He publicly admitted that he only talks about one child. And so the fact of the matter is that you can't come on here and criticize a man who is actually actively parenting both of his kids, who is going through a situation, a private situation with his ex-wife, compared to Herschel Walker, who came out and criticized black fathers for not being there. And it was revealed through the media that he has three other kids that he's never talked about.
Martha,
that is the disparity.
You know, who I really want to hear from of these children is the 22-year-old adult daughter. Because she's an adult, she can speak if she wants to. I'd love to know what he was like as a younger father and how involved he was. So we'll see what happens, but I do think that we'll have to see, whether people care about this. But it sounds to me like it's not changing minds.
All right, I got to move on. Capitol Police say Congressman Barry Loudermilk did nothing wrong when he joined a tour of the U.S. Capitol complex on January 5th. 2021. But the committee investigating the events of January 6th are questioning the behavior of some of the group members who were taking pictures of hallways and staircases. Phil, Congressman Loudermilk has claimed this is just part of a smear campaign.
I think it is. We all know Congressman Loudermilk. We all have been on those Capitol tours. You take pictures, you wander around. I had my family there a few years ago, and it's a lot of fun. You go everywhere. You're a guest of a congressman or a staffer. And if the Capitol Police says nothing happened, why would the Democrats just want to attack a pro-Trump congressman? I think we know the answer to that question because he's a pro-Trump congressman. I think it's nothing.
Melito?
Well, the video of the photographs taken of hallways and stairways is damning. And the man who was a part of that tour, who was also outside the Capitol grounds on January 6th, who was filmed saying, "We're coming for you," and he named Nancy Pelosi, he named Nader, and he named AOC, and he said, "We're coming to take you out and pull you out by your hairs. When I get done with you, you're going to need a shine on top of that bald head." I'm not so sure that makes Congressman Loudermilk look good to have given that man a tour.
Those people didn't do anything on the tour, though.
Martha?
Nothing happened on the tour.
Look, congressmen and others take pictures and do tours with people that they don't know everything about. I think something has come up on Democratic candidates that we all can remember as well as Republican candidates. But this video shows pictures being taken of one stairwell. Do you know what's at the top of that stairwell? A gigantic statue of an eagle. Okay, so that wasn't seen in the video, and that's why you always need to know when you're looking at videos what's before and what's after, because he took a picture of, yeah, it looks weird if all you see is someone taking a picture of a stairwell, but now you know what's at the top of the stairwell is a big statue of an eagle.
All right, good perspective as always, everybody. Thank you. Coming up, winners and losers. Stay tuned.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
First, we have to wish all of the dads out there a very happy Father's Day, especially to my dad. We call him Ducky, so happy Father's Day, Ducky. Phil, over to you.
Okay, well, I've got a winner of the week, and it's Governor Brian Kemp. Georgia received its AAA bond rating again, and of course this is done by the three main credit agencies in the country, and this will help us with regard to the selling bonds. And also, we're only one of 9 states, so that's quite an accomplishment due to good Republican fiscal conservative management. And I think we're going to make hold on to your hats. A guy named Theron Johnson. He's our colleague here in the Georgia gang. Melita and Lori, and we're sorry you couldn't make it, Martha. We're at the 5th anniversary of his company, Paramount Consulting. So congratulations, Theron, for building a company. We always appreciate business folks who can do that. And I tell you what, we had some great interviews there.
We did. Okay, Theron, over to you on that note.
Well, thank you so much, Phil. I appreciate you making me your winner. I'll definitely return a favor one day soon. I want to wish everyone a happy Juneteenth. Tomorrow we'll celebrate this national holiday that celebrates Black culture and also commemorates the emancipation of African-American slaves. Secondly, I want to give a shout out to Gary Tates. I met him at the Atlanta United game, so I didn't forget about you, brother. You're definitely a winner. And then lastly, Lori, I want to congratulate Atlanta Hartsfield, Jackson, Atlanta International Airport, and particularly the general manager, Byron Biadari, and also Technique Construction, Billy Freeman. They were recognized last week for the plane train and their great work, and it was a national story, so definitely want to make them a winner this week.
I saw that. It was very interesting. Melita.
Well, first winner is the Reverend Senator Raphael Warnock for his new memoir, A Way Out of No Way, which debuted in bookstores this week. And also the James Beard Foundation, the Oscars of the food world, recognized as top chef Savannah's Mashama Bailey of the Gray Restaurant, and Atlanta's 75-year-old Busy Bee Cafe was named an American classic.
Oh, very nice, Martha.
Happy birthday to Lori Geary. We're not going to say which one, but so
I don't
great.
mind.
Want to say thanks to the folks at Chastain Park. I was there at a concert and they had to evacuate us because of a storm, and they were great. And then I'm going to make my winner this week. You're going to be surprised too, John Ossoff. He was one of the only Democratic senators to condemn the attempt on Brett Kavanaugh's life, and he took a lot of guts to do do that.
I'm proud of you Republicans for making Democrats your winners. We've come a long way.
birthday,
Oh,
Lori.
we did that in the country. Thank you, Theron. All right, thank you, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.